I had a dream of my grandfather and his wooden chair. Can you turn down the guitar, please?
Hey, fun fans, it's a We Enjoy. Thanks for returning this week to listen to us talk about the remake of RoboCop from 2014. We are the Mattitude Eric. I am Matt Fowler. Say hello, Eric Goldman.
Hello, everyone. It's the countdown to WandaVision's finale. As we record this, you're probably listening to this on Friday and it's out. But
well, before I hit record, I just said to Eric, not all of these podcasts have to be an hour and a half. As I say that, and they all probably will. But also, I was thinking in my head, what else do we have to do for the hours waiting for the WandaVision finale? We could just keep this going. Just a time killer until we can see the finale we've all been waiting for. And
are you going to stay up?
I will probably try to take a mini nap and then wake up.
That was my thought, too. After this, I was like, shall I try to nap? Shall I caffeinate at 11 p.m.? We'll see.
Well, it's hard because... it's more my bedtime than yours when we wrap this podcast up, and I have a hard time going to sleep after the podcast because I'm energized from talking to you, Eric.
Because it's so exciting.
It's so exciting to just talk about all this nerdcore news, and then my heart's pounding, I can't go to sleep, the adrenaline's flowing. So, I fall asleep, but it takes a while. I'm usually zone out watching a movie. A movie I may recommend, actually, for the Good Things to Enjoy segment this week, but I'll find out. When we get to that part, I'm going to give you a question, and you, depending on how you answer it, is what movie I'm going to recommend.
Oh my god, this is a lot.
Answer me these riddles 3, Eric.
If you wish to pass.
So, okay, and also we're kind of light on news this week, so that segment could go quickly. I say that, it won't. Okay. We are the Mattitude Eric, like I said. We are at the Matt Fowler and the Eric Goldman on Twitter. We Enjoy Podcast on Twitter, and you can email us at weenjoypodcast@gmail.com if you want to send us love letters. You can also rate us on whatever platform is that you subscribe to us on. Usually it's Apple Podcasts has the rating system that sort of moves us up the charts and gets more looky balls on us from other people, and so they can listen to us with their heary flaps. And I think that there is here it is. I check in every once in a while to see who's rated us, and someone put in a very nice note to us this past week, who just goes by the handle Tunzo Plum, and it's on Apple Podcasts, and Tunzo Plum writes, Matt can be silly, and Eric loves sandwiches and drinks. What more could you want? Which is a valid question. What more could you want? I'm also a little bummed that I don't put it out there enough that my vibe isn't that I also like sandwiches and drinks, but that could be your thing. That's fine. I don't need to like everything.
Drinks, it's funny because he's not referring, or she, I should say, whoever it is not referring to alcoholic beverages, because it's not like I'm talking about alcohol. I just like to drink things. Like I have water right in front of me. That's a drink.
Yeah, you like liquids and solids.
Yes. Well, sandwich is a little more specific.
You like food and food lube. Makes the food go down. So
Food Lube, that's my favorite movie. Yeah.
So I didn't make any sort of co-executive decision on this yet, but I was also wondering, I was like, maybe I should just move the emails to after the news, and then we dive right into the news and then get into the emails. The emails are usually never about the news, so they can usually wait. So let's do that this week and start with the news, Eric. Then I will read down what people have written to us on the Gmail and the Twitter and the Patreon and all that stuff. But before we even do the news, I want to talk about the fact that just last night in the evening, so there's I don't know what you call them. I guess Twitter memes. Is that what they are? Or Twitter movements or viral things that happen online, usually on Twitter, where I think it's just this one site or this one account that just keeps doing these weird tweet questions where it's like, can you name a Sylvester Stallone movie that is not Rambo or Rocky?
Oh, yeah.
Because then they did another one that was like, can you name a Brad Pitt movie that isn't Seven or Fight Club?
Fight Club, yeah.
And it's ridiculous. And for some reason...
the Stallone, it's like, that you like, but I'm still like, come on.
These are people with decades of Movieology and IMDb credits to their names, and who are known. You are calling out some of the most famous projects, yes, but they are known for many more things. And it is so fun and also unnerving to watch how many people this nabs, where they're like, I'm sorry, have you not heard of a movie called Stop or My Mom Will Shoot? I don't know. I'm just saying, like, it's like they give into it because they know nerds hate that shit, and they hate, like, they can't not answer, you know, like, they can't do it. And so people will respond to the Brad Pitt one saying, like, 7 Years in Tibet, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like, naming every bad Brad Pitt movie. Like, right. It's like, they got you. If only somehow this were monetized, they would be raking in money. But they're not. They're just getting attention. So I tweeted out, basically, it was a sort of a dumb joke one. Can you name a Harrison Ford movie that isn't Die Hard or Con Air? Yeah. The joke being he's in neither of those movies. And I received an alarming amount of tweets in response. Mostly from people who don't follow me. Now, to their credit, so these aren't people who actually follow me and would know automatically that I'm joking. But you should tell from the tweet that it's wrong.
The tweet, yeah. Like you'd have to be epically ignorant, and yes, the internet does introduce us to a lot of epically ignorant people, but still, it seems a lot.
Anyway, I got a lot of people, like, actually responding with Harrison Ford movies and doing the thing where they quote tweet me. They don't even follow me, but they're, like, calling me out. Like, has he not heard of Star Wars? And, like, a facepalm emoji.
I'm like, no, I haven't.
And so I just get at them, and I've done this a couple times to a couple people where they'll do that. They'll say, The Fugitive. I'm like, I said, no. I said a Harrison Ford movie. And then I'll, like, put up a picture of Josh Lucas or something.
Oh my, you're having all sorts of fun.
Anyway, all right, let's get into the news, of which there's no Harrison Ford in this news at all, Eric. It's all Harrison Ford free. Star of Swingers and The Matrix Reloaded, Harrison Ford. So I'll just start with this one because I was trying to find a different set of headphones to use for this podcast, and then while I was doing that, Eric was going over our shared Google Doc with the news in it. And I just wrote Tiny Tina in it. And he said, I just hear him from my headphones on the ground going, Matt, what's Tiny Tina?
Which actually, I lied when I said I did think of Tina Turner, but the first thing I thought of was Talkie Tina from Twilight Zone, which is one of the sort of first famous killer dolls in pop culture. But that is not what this had to do with. This is not a Talkie Tina, the motion picture.
For some reason, when you said Twilight Zone, I was thinking of the Twilight movies, and I was like, they have a killer doll?
But, well, they had that creepy as hell CG baby in the final one.
So I told Eric that Tiny Tina was an animated series based about I was young Tina Turner, and to which he knew I was joking, but also I may not have been, because it sounds like it could be I
didn't think animated series, but I did think, what if there's like a biopic and they've cast like young Tina Turner?
Because Young Rock had just debuted, so
sure, yeah,
and young Sheldon and Tiny Tina. No, this is very quick. Tiny Tina is a character from the Borderlands video game franchise, introduced in Borderlands 2. Got her own DLC called what was it? Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep. By the way, Eric, Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep involves Tiny Tina leading it's not called Dungeons and Dragons in the Borderlands universe, but a Dungeons and Dragons style game. And so that whole DLC is you playing inside as a character, one of the Vault Hunters player characters in this Dungeons and Dragons game. But guess what, Eric? Because this leads into our talk from just a few minutes ago about WandaVision. The story is all about grief. And I'm not being snarky about that. The Tiny Tina DLC, it's all about grief and how she's hiding inside of this game to keep from addressing her feelings about someone who died. So, okay. She's been cast for the Borderlands movie. Tiny Tina, Eric, is an unstable 13-year-old bomb expert from the game who's a lot of fun.
Oh, sure.
And she has been cast, and the young actress playing her is named Ariana Greenblatt, who... we don't really know except for her role as young Gamora. Right. Yeah. So that's how we know her.
Not only was she in a huge movie, but she had sort of a very famous scene because she's in the final What Did It Cost You? You know,
yeah, that has been heavily memed as well. So
yes. You've seen her in the memes, guys.
I'll see you at the memes.
Right. She's so jaded because she's already been so memed.
Yeah, she's like, whatever. Borderlands movie. Okay, that's Tiny Tina. Second up, Superman and Lois has been renewed for a season 2. And I watched the premiere. Not involved. I've checked out of the Arrowverse and have been for a few years now. But because this one is sort of almost a fresh start, not only does it take place in an alternate universe than the other Arrow universe shows, because it's the Supergirl universe.
No, you didn't see Crisis then, Matt.
No, I didn't.
It's not an alternate universe anymore.
Oh, is it all merged together?
They got merged at the end of Crisis, yeah.
Okay, well, the last time I saw Taylor Hoechlin as Superman, he was in a different universe. I didn't know that he'd been brought back. But I do know that it is, they don't necessarily answer this out of the gate, but it's in the future, isn't it? Because their kids are all grown up.
No, I think they're just being wonky. It's almost a funny joke on without being intending to, like, you know, CW casting, where it's like, oh, mid-30s, you got to be like an old parent, like, you know.
First of all, the actress is 40. And,
well, no, I know, but he's younger.
Yeah, but he's Superman. He's supposed to be playing 40, and he's just Superman, so he looks younger. Also, I have a 24-year-old, so they can all fuck off. Like, how do they have 14-year-olds? Or they're probably supposed to be 16 on the show or something. But yeah.
Although this goes on an opposite thing I think is funny, which is shows like Cobra Kai, where guys who are in their like late 50s have like high school high school student kids, which of course can happen.
Of course it can.
Very prevalent in TV. Like they wouldn't want to make Cobra Kai. They wouldn't want to make them grandparents, even though they very reasonably could be.
I'm a grandparent. I'm just saying, like, but if I had a kid right now, Eric, if I had a kid right now,
I know.
I would have a teenager when I was 60, which is not out of the ordinary. It's not unheard of.
No. It's more about gender, Matt, because the guys on Cobra Kai who are like pushing 60 have like, you know, high school or younger, because there's the kid they never deal with, Daniel's son, that piece of shit son they don't really deal with anymore. It's just like. But they give them the wives or the mothers of their kids are like, you know, 10 to 15 years younger. It's just
that's a TV thing. That's a TV thing. I don't know if they're actually just acknowledging the age difference or if the guys are supposed to be younger. But right. So anyway, so as it turns out, according to Eric, both of my reasons for watching this show, one, that it was set in a different universe, and two, that it was in the future, are both wrong. So I watched this stupid shit for nothing. No, it wasn't stupid. I liked it. It was a fine pilot. I like it too. Yeah. And he's a good Superman.
He is a good Superman. It's funny. I had a funny this got this quick renewal after just one episode, but not shocking. I mean, they clearly were invested in it. They ordered more episodes past the initial order. It's funny because I got into a stupid Twitter argument with someone. Well, you're trolling people, so whatever. But I got in a stupid Twitter argument with someone.
I don't mean to. They just don't.
I know.
They just don't know that Harrison Ford's not in Con Air.
They come to you. You must. I get it. And I got in an argument with someone because all I said was, which is something I still believe, going forward, I'm guessing the Arrowverse isn't going anywhere, but I think they'll probably pare it down or keep it more contained is my main thing. It won't just keep adding shows because HBO Max, you know, Warner Media, it's all Warner Media. They own all the shows. But the fact that they're doing a bunch of DC shows for HBO Max too, I thought they're going to want to keep it contained a little more. We're not going to keep seeing show after show after show being ordered. And so it's like, look, Supergirl is ending. Black Lightning is ending. They didn't order Green Arrow and the Black Canary series. They didn't move forward on the Wonder Girl pilot. Possibly they never filmed the pilot, but it was in development. So it's like I think they're going to kind of keep it a little more contained going forward. But he's like,
okay, no. So then my bare bones reasons for watching it still hold.
Yes.
Is that I didn't need to know the past like 3 years of the Arrowverse to watch it.
I think they definitely want to be more accessible. And that's funny. I mean, I think COVID derailed. They were never going to do after Crisis. I know they always said, "Oh, we're not going to do a giant crossover next year because it's like Crisis. You can't get bigger than Crisis." And so they're like, "Okay, we're not going to do a giant." And I think all they were going to do was, I think it was going to be Superman and Lois and Batwoman. I could be wrong, it was Supergirl and Batwoman, but I think it was Superman and Lois. But even that's not happening because of COVID. So it's like, it makes, Superman and Lois gets to be its own thing a little more. And, that doesn't mean they might, the Flash might show up next season or something. But
all right. In Superman and Lois is coming back, but coming back years after it ended is stars Party Down, which is they're working on a revival at this point. And Eric, now before you yell at me, I want you to know that I've watched 10 episodes of Freaks and Geeks so far, so I am catching up. But sure. Party Down is still only a show I've seen probably 3 episodes of, and I know it's great. It's great. You
shunned all Martin Starr TV shows.
Yeah, but I'll watch the Spider-Man movies.
Right. So that makes no.
Wait, is he on Silicon Valley?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't watch that either. I must have a thing against him.
You have a very.
But I'm watching it now. I'm watching Freaks and Geeks now.
Good.
Okay, so it has a lot of excellent people in it. So you talk about Party Down for people who may not have seen it.
Party Down was kind of right when Starz was getting into like original programming more. It launched around the same time as Spartacus, as I recall.
Spartacus, great show.
Spartacus is a great show. And Paul Rudd, it was Rob Thomas, Veronica Mars creator, is one of the creators and producers, and Paul Rudd is another one, and the other 2 guys, John Embaum and Dan Etheridge, frequent collaborators with Rob Thomas. And a really funny show about L.A.,
it's a catering business.
Yeah. And a great cast. It was Adam Scott, Ken Marino, Jane Lynch, Ryan Hansen from Veronica Mars, Martin Starr, Lizzie Kaplan. The thing is, the show was always a tiny sort of under the radar thing, cult thing, but also was beset by the fact that they weren't signing any of their cast to first position. And so they lost, meaning like contractually, they didn't have them if another show could grab them. So they lost Jane Lynch after season 1 to Glee. And then if they'd wanted to keep going after season 2, guess what? They lost their lead, Adam Scott, because that's when he joined Parks and Rec. So it went away. But this is 2021 and nothing goes away. If there's any fan base for it or any following for something, it can come back. So Party Down is one of the more obscure ones.
It is. Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like, the Frasier revival or something like that. Or,
right.
Or even the ones that came back that didn't do anything, like the Mad About You return and stuff like that. These are big shows.
Or even I'd say like something based on a movie like Ash vs. Evil Dead, where it's like, well, there was 3 Evil Dead movies and there's like a big fight and a remake. Party Down's very under the radar, but it's a very funny show, and everyone involved was successful or became successful after.
And so it was in that sense a lot like Freaks and Geeks.
Yes.
Yeah.
With one of the same stars.
Exactly. The guy I hate. Clearly.
You're going to be Martin Starr. So coming back for a 6-episode run. It's funny because the press release made no mention of any cast. It said who starred in the original, but it didn't say who was on board. And, who knows? They're only doing 6 episodes, but it might even be a thing where everyone can't be in all 6. Who knows? But it was funny because someone tweeted to me something about, I'm bummed Adam Scott and Martin Starr won't be back, but I'm like, I didn't see anything that they would or wouldn't be back. And then Adam Scott tweeted about it. I'm like, no, I think he's on board.
He was just like, hey, you guys should watch this show. Like, I'm not in it, but
he's like, I have nothing to do with this. Screw those guys.
It's all about the cones.
Right. But yeah, so it's coming back, and because it was a great, funny show, hopefully people will go find those first 2 seasons because it's very funny. Matt, are you enjoying Freaks and Geeks?
I am. It is. So I have I would say a mid-level tolerance for awkward humor. So for some reason I can handle something like The Office. But in other instances, maybe it's the format. I don't think it's the high school setting, but maybe it's the format of, the mockumentary format allows it to go down a little easier for me. But Freaks and Geeks, I have to pause, and it takes me a while to get through an episode, depending on the episode. I have a theory about Freaks and Geeks, too, that I'll tell you in a second. But I also do like things like Curb Your Enthusiasm, and I do like, you haven't seen this show, Eric, The In-Betweeners, which is another high school show set in England, but is way more embarrassing and raunchy than Freaks and Geeks. But for some reason, Freaks and Geeks just hits certain pedals for me that make me need to slow down and pause every once in a while. But what I've noticed about Freaks and Geeks is that there's usually one culminating embarrassing moment per episode that, you know, in the third act embarrassing moment. And then, which normally, if it happens to any of the characters on the show, they would never show their face again. I'm sorry, but if Sam literally is forced to run through the school naked, and he's back to school the next episode. That is so, like, so for me it feels like a weird humiliation procedural where like there's a boner of the week, and then everything resets by the time we catch up with them again, as if like somebody wasn't mortified just the previous week and didn't want to like move to the next town because of it. But it's a good show and full of famous faces.
Full of famous faces. The main cast who all became famous, and then recurring people, guest stars. There's all sorts of people.
Yeah, I didn't know Biff was in it.
Yep, Biff is in it prominently. Yep.
Okay, so merging
multiple Mystery Science Theater people are in it. Wow.
Yes, I just saw Joel. I don't think I've noticed anyone else. Maybe they come later. But yeah,
Crow is in it too. Trace Ballou is in it as one of the teachers. You may or may not have recognized him.
Maybe he hasn't shown up yet, or maybe I just didn't recognize who he was.
Yeah.
Okay, so merging Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep and Freaks and Geeks for this next news story, we're going to just run down a little bit about the news about the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which we haven't talked about on this podcast yet, but the cast is slowly forming, and so we should just bring it up. Where John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, so John Francis Daly, Sam, who I just mentioned from Freaks and Geeks, and his partner Jonathan Goldstein, who write and direct movies, they are going to write and direct a Dungeons and Dragons
including
movie.
writing a Spider-Man movie that Martin Starr was in.
That Martin Starr was in. See, it's all connected. There's a web, if you will. So they're going to write and direct this Dungeons and Dragons movie, and so far it's got... Who's it got, Eric? Chris Pine?
Chris Pine was the first one cast.
Michelle Rodriguez.
Yeah.
We got Justice Smith. We've got hot guy of the moment from Bridgerton, Jean Page.
Wow, the SNL audience, they were all over. I've never seen Bridgerton, but they were certainly very excited for him.
I've seen 3 episodes. I will finish the season at some point. It's an enjoyable show. Hugh Grant was just cast as the villain, and then it and... God, what was the Netflix show she was on? Was canceled after 1 season. I am not okay with this. Sophia Lillis was cast. And these are all unknown roles. We don't know what they are, except for the fact that Hugh Grant is the villain. Now, Eric, I saw your tweet. So yes. This is a good time for us to talk about. Now, I played Dungeons and Dragons as a youngling. Not as much as I played other role-playing games, like the Marvel superhero role-playing game and Gamma World, but I did play D&D. But both you and I know the Saturday morning cartoon Dungeons and Dragons based on the role-playing game, yes. Which had its own very specific characters and its own specific villains. Now, monsters on that show were taken from the monster manual, from the world of Dungeons and Dragons, like Tiamat and the Beholder and some other creatures. I think Venger was created for the show. I don't know.
I think so.
But yeah, it had Venger, it had Tiamat, and they were both villains, but they also hated each other, so they would war with each other. The Dungeon Master was a character on the show, and
Uni
the Unicorn, voiced by Frank Welker. And there was a character, Eric, because they made action figures. They made Dungeons and Dragons action figures. Now, I don't know what begot what, but there was one of my favorite figures as a child was a Dungeons and Dragons action figure called Warduke, which is an awesome name, and he looked really cool. I considered him like the Boba Fett of this franchise. And he did appear in 1 episode. So, but I don't know if the toy line was for the show or if they brought that toy into the show. I don't know how it worked. But he was in 1 episode, and he wasn't very impressive in the episode. Again, like Boba Fett of the franchise. Right. He looked really cool, but he didn't really do anything great. Does that mean
he gets his redemption 30-something years later on a
I
TV
would,
show?
If they tell me that Chris Pine is playing fucking Warduke, I will lose my mind.
That's how they got him.
Anyway, the cartoon was probably my favorite Saturday morning cartoon, like hands down, and it was scary, and it got in a lot of trouble for its violence and scariness from like the FTC and stuff like that. So, anyway, So I should say
I've never played Dungeons and Dragons. I've never played any role playing game. It is completely an unknown world to me. I'm not against. I've actually thought in the last couple of years, maybe I'll try playing D&D. And then the pandemic started, and I know people are playing online, but I feel like that's not the way I want to learn online or play with a group of people for the first time. But I loved the cartoon. But that's my only like D&D thing. I didn't see the 2000 movie, the bad one, or so I hear. Maybe it'll be my favorite movie ever. Only know the animated series, which I also loved as a kid, was one of my favorites. I saw, I think it was New York Comic Con a few years ago. I saw a guy dressed as Presto the Magician, and I was very excited.
So talk about the characters. So there was Hank the Ranger.
Eric the Cavalier was an asshole. My name's
but I know. But he had that redemption episode where he, where he was. Well, it wasn't. I don't think it was a redemption. With the one where he was cursed to be ugly, and then they all found a way home. So the whole going back, the premise is these teenagers go on a carnival ride, and they go through a portal, and then they're stuck in D&D land, and their whole drive of the show is they get home. Spoiler, they don't on screen because they never actually animated the final episode of that show. So it's a very frustrating thing that they did never get home. Right. And they made a radio play out of the script. The actors all got together and did a radio play so you can listen to the final story where they do get home, but it was never made into an actual episode of the show. And what makes it even more frustrating is there are episodes of the show where they do get home, but then have to go back for some reason. And one of them was they all make it home, but Eric, who is now hideous and deformed because he's been cursed, doesn't want to go back home because of the way he looks. And they all feel sorry for him, so they come fucking back. And they could have been home free, but they come back because he is their friend, despite the fact that he is, like you said, he's a lot. He's a lot to take. So he was one of the reasons why they actually didn't get home, because he wouldn't go home because he had like big weird ears and a big nose and stuff like that.
Classic Eric. But yeah, there was Diana the Acrobat, there was Presto the Magician, Sheila the Thief, Bobby the Barbarian. It's like all these were like, these teenage kids who then go there, and this is like who they all get like special like abilities and weapons and things that help them do cool stuff. Little kid me was crushing on both Diana and Sheila. And I think Dungeons & Dragons, the animated series, is interesting because it has like kind of a cult place within D&D. Like you mentioned, I think there were a little bit of toys back then, and then in recent years, two things have happened with it, which is was it Brazil? There was some country that did that commercial a year or two ago. Remember?
Oh,
it was like. Did you not see this, Matt?
No, I didn't. I don't know what you're talking
God.
about.
This is like, I feel like we should pause the podcast. No, but after the podcast, you need to look this up. There was like a car commercial that had live action the versions, these D&D characters. Like, was like a story with these characters.
Wow. That's cool.
Yeah. And then there are these little statues. They were not made by Sideshow, but you can buy them on Sideshow.com. They're like $100 statues of every character, and they all fit together. It's several hundred. It's like almost $1,000 to get them all, because there's a big Venger one too.
Look at Venger's face. Look at his face and tell me he doesn't look like Hugh Grant.
Well, so what happened was this was announced, and all it said was the villain. Hugh Grant will play the villain, and I saw someone. Damn it, I forget who. I'm sorry that I can't give credit to whoever did this, but someone tweeted a picture. I think it was a she. Tweeted a picture of Venger, like just in response to that Hugh Grant will be the villain. And then the next thing I read is that Sophia Lillis is in it, and now that's in my head. Sophia Lillis, who is a teenager with red hair,
she looks a lot like Sheila. Yeah,
and I think Sheila, who is a teenager with red hair, and it's probably not what they're going to do, but there is the part of my mind that's like, ooh, what if they were like merging together a bunch of different? That's a thing they might do in a script. Like, we're going to take parts of D&D from all parts of history and merge it together. Yeah. And so now I'll be sad when it turns out Sophia Lillis is not playing Sheila, because she probably isn't. But wouldn't it be cool if she was? I think it is.
Paul Dini wrote an episode.
Yep. And I have the complete series on DVD.
I do too. And I remember there was one episode, I don't remember what the name of it was, where they basically go into a dungeon or a tower or some shit, and they all have to face their greatest fear. And then and like someone disintegrates and it's really scary. And then there was an episode where Venger actually blasts Hank with like his sorcery, and like Hank's face starts melting off. I'm telling you, it was for the time for a show aimed at like kids under 10, and older, but it was just a lot more violent and than you would normally see, which was what made it so cool. Like there's no secret there. Like the animation was really cool, and it itself the violence was cool, and then so the National Coalition for Television Violence got all up in arms about it. Anyway,
it was Marvel Productions who Marvel Productions was
just
Marvel's animation wing, and they produced the Spider-Man Amazing Friends, they produced the Hulk, but they also were producing Transformers, G.I. Joe, Muppet Babies, and Dungeons and Dragons,
and Tiny Tina about
Tiny
young Tina Turner. All right, let's get into what some people wrote us this week before we get into our good things to enjoy, because then we're going to go right into RoboCop 2014 after that. Jeff Solomon writes in, listener of...
I know that dude.
Yeah, I know that name too. He writes in into the email, "Hey, Mattitude Eric, some quick comments about the RoboCop reboot. It is entirely unmemorable, but otherwise not offensive. I think it's a shame they make a meta-movie joke out of his armor, though, which clearly looked better in silver. And then some studio jerk must have made them change it to black, so they wrote in that joke. I assume that's the real story because anyone with eyes can see it looked great in silver." Then he closes by writing, "Djalma." And he wrote a follow-up email saying that he was trying to write Shakma, and this is on his phone, and it auto-corrected to Djalma. So we might have to start saying Djalma at the end of this podcast. Mike, who has written us a few emails about RoboCop, and then Russell also, who previously wrote us about the Leprechaun franchise, both wrote in to make sure that we mention, and I think we'll get into this more next week with sort of our and the rest of RoboCop episode. They both wanted to make sure that we brought up RoboCop and Sting partnering at WCW's Capital Combat, which we will. We'll bring it up next week, and we'll probably try.
Wait, Matt, are we going to do everything next week, or are we still going to split into two?
Man, I don't know. I don't know if people want 2 more weeks of RoboCop that aren't in the
only
movies.
reason I think we should do 2 more weeks is because both the live action shows involve watching 90-minute pilots. So I feel like to ask people to do that and then to watch 2 animated pilots is probably too much.
I don't know. I'm just saying they could listen to us talk about them without watching.
Let's spread it out. But also, I don't want to watch all 4.
All right. Okay. So then you say what next week's main event is when we get to that point. You say what it is. Okay.
I did the research.
Richard wrote in on Twitter responding to your tweets today about Paramount Plus and the launch of Paramount Plus officially, just wanting to let us know that as soon as he opened the app, he noticed Star Trek was sitting right there in front waiting for him. I didn't have to search for it. Matt, he wanted me to know. So already I see an improvement, or I hear about an improvement on Twitter from what CBS All Access was, which was a swirling torrent of misery that I couldn't wait to escape. Okay, that's my opinion.
Let me go with my mini rant about what it was like Wednesday night, because Paramount Plus launched today as we record, which is a Thursday. Wednesday night, I had been marathoning the original season of The Real World on CBS All Access because I wanted to rewatch it before the Homecoming reunion series that is one of Paramount Plus's launch series. And I was only 2 or 3 from the end, and it was 10 p.m., and it should have just rolled over because I had autoplay to the next episode. And suddenly, I was watching it on CBS All Access, like I said. It logged me out, and the Paramount Plus logo was up, and it said you had to log back in. And I tried to log back in to CBS All Access. It couldn't. I tried to go to Paramount Plus. Didn't exist yet. It was like an error screen at ParamountPlus.com. So I was trapped in this limbo as they were, I'm sure, porting everyone's accounts over and getting ready to launch Paramount Plus, I'm assuming at midnight Pacific. So I couldn't finish my goddamn Real World marathon, Matt.
Well, the one positive that Richard brought up about it has now been erased because they can't even fucking transition over without interrupting your marathon of MTV's The Grind. And then I watched, but I finished it this morning, and then I watched the first episode of Homecoming at lunch, and I cried. There you go. You cried because you were just so happy that it worked, or because of something from the show?
Both.
Good.
Because
Good.
I love when technology doesn't fail me, and because I was seeing people from 30 years ago.
And you were thinking of Andre's band Rain Dance and his song Lazy
and
Bones?
how they didn't make it.
Yeah. Oh, they didn't? Oh,
no,
man.
He formed a different band a few years after.
I bet they made it.
He talks about how Rain Dance, these are the guys he's known his whole life, Matt. So what happened?
Lazy Bones, feel like I'm dancing on my tombstone. That song has been stuck in my head since 1991 or whatever.
My tangent on that is just, it's so funny and frustrating to watch these shows where they don't have the music license, that was originally
They couldn't
there.
get Rain Dance?
Then I was going to say, of course they have Rain Dance. That's the only thing that's there that was always there. That'd be extra funny. They could get Prince, but they couldn't get Rain Dance.
There's a whole part of the show, a whole episode where they watch his music video that they made of them just, it's all the band just palling around and being silly jerks. But wouldn't it be funny if they didn't get the rights to that Rain Dance song, so it was just Spin Doctor's Two Princes?
Yeah, but no, it's super frustrating because they don't have any of the songs they licensed to originally be on Real World. But the funny thing is, and there's only a couple times where I very distinctly remembered what should be there. A big one is Adamant, Goody Goody.
Oh yeah, because that was next time on the Real World, and that's when Julie got gussied up.
Yes, to play the prank on Kevin.
Yeah.
Then they play it in the episode, and then they think they played it in the previously on. So there was that a lot. So that song I distinctly knew should be there. But the others I don't remember exactly was there, just stuff that was hit.
I must have seen that next time on promo a million times because I remember all the montage of that and the bit of that song that they used too.
Yep. But the funny thing is when you can very easily tell what song they replaced with generic music that sounds ish, it has the beat of what they replaced it with. And so the two that were very easy for me were Let's Go Crazy, because also they're very on the nose with the music choices. So I'm like, this sounds like Let's Go Crazy, and then Norm or someone's like, we just went crazy that night. So I was like, okay. and then there's a part where they're walking in the rain, and I go, oh, this sounds like Blame It on the Rain. It's just that one couple beats off.
Wait, they had a Milli Vanilli? What year was it? 90?
92.
All right.
Yeah.
So before we get into the good things to enjoy, I'm going to read a message here from Jason from Patreon, which is actually about the good things to enjoy segment. So he writes in, hey, Matt and Eric, my name's Jason. I've had a few interactions with Eric on Twitter. He says his handle is PatsFan1989 which is an uninspired name, but 1989 was taken, and he didn't want to keep thinking about others, so he just put 2 after it. Anyway, I used to be a regular listener of channel surfing, so when you made this, I just had to listen. I'm so glad to be back in a community that listens to you two talk about things we all enjoy. The main thing I wanted to chime in on this week was something Matt said. During the Things We Enjoy segment, Matt apologized that his picks weren't geeky enough or something along those lines. With all due respect, sir, fuck that.
I agree. I'm sorry, who wrote this? What's his name?
This is Jason.
Jason, I agree. I didn't know why Matt was saying that. We don't have to be geeky.
I'm literally, I think it was just the 1-2 punch of Last of the Mohicans and Talented Mr. Ripley, basically Oscar-nominated films from the 90s. Yeah, just... All right, so I don't listen to hear you talk only about my own interests. I do it to hear from 2 people I respect and really want to just be introduced to new things. I would never watch Picnic at Hanging Rock, but now it's something I will watch. So just continue recommending what you enjoy. It's up to us listening to respond or not. Yeah, it's true. It's all true. These are all true things that are true. My thing to enjoy, so now he's getting in on the bit here. So Jason writes, my thing to enjoy this week is a film called Farewell Amor. It tells the story about an immigrant family who has been reunited after 17 years, and it tells the story from each perspective of the 3 family members, and it's a really beautiful film. So I looked it up, and it's just from last year. Farewell Amor is from 2020. So I assume it is rentable out there, if not streaming on some platform by now. But I don't know. So Jason concludes, I hope both of you are well, and I am so happy to be talking with you again. I look forward to many more conversations. So thank you, Jason.
Thank you very much.
My pick this week is Scott Pilgrim versus the... I'm just kidding. That was the geekiest thing I could think of in an instant. What's the geekiest thing? Right. So now that we're in this segment now, I am going to ask you a question. This is what I teased at the beginning. Do I recommend something that is kind of recent and geeky that you and I both really like, but I still feel is underwatched. But I am torn because I'm wondering if it's underwatched by the people who listen to this. Or do I pick another movie from the 90s that admittedly isn't the best, but I really like it. It's got like a 65% on Rotten Tomatoes. It's not like an apex of cinema, but I really like it.
I don't think that needs to stop you, and certainly the Rotten Tomatoes doesn't need to stop you because there are movies that have terrible Rotten Tomatoes scores that I love. I will say this: I am very curious if you might have picked the same thing I did for the recent thing that
Well, then if you're that curious, I will go with my '90s pick, and then you.
I was going to say, why don't I go first because I think you went for the last
first.
2 weeks anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
And maybe I'm going to say what you were going to say.
All right.
Were you going to say? And you might not have. Devs, Matt?
Oh, no, I wasn't going TV show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, mine was a movie. But yeah, Devs is great. We both like Devs.
Once again, I'm doing the same thing 2 weeks in a row, which is I'm inspired by our main event. And in this case, it's because the actor Zach Grenier, I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correct, is in RoboCop 2014. He's a familiar character actor, but most recently had a prominent role in Devs. He was the head of security in Devs. He's the politician in RoboCop 2014. Who's,
He's the
robot.
Yeah.
We'll get more to that.
So it was an interesting role for him in Devs because he's not like the head of security type. He is more. He does look more like the politician type he plays in the RoboCop remake.
Yeah. So Devs again, and which is I feel like it certainly got acclaim and attention, but I feel in these days, more than ever, there's so many choices, so much fracturing that it's like, I don't know who's seen it and who hasn't. And seeing him in RoboCop 2014, made me think about Devs and how much I love Devs. Devs was created by Alex Garland, who's done a lot of cool sci-fi horror-y stuff. He wrote 28 Days Later, and he wrote Dread, a movie that Matt and I both love, and Sunshine. And then as a writer-director did Ex Machina and Annihilation. And if you saw the previews, it's one of those 2 seconds from now future stories.
And Devs was the show that they used to launch the FX on Hulu platform.
Right.
I don't know how successful that is, but it was just interesting. It was an interesting, I felt, launch show because it is a kind of a cerebral show and hard to crack even for those paying attention.
Yeah. But that was an interesting whole thing because, of course, it was a pivot because Devs was one of several shows that were not intended to be FX on Hulu. They were just going to be FX. And then it's like...
Yeah, I'm just wondering why they didn't launch with Mrs. America or something with a little more pizzazz and name value. But yeah, from the start at least.
Yeah, and I don't think I need to go too far into the plot, especially because, you might remember the previews even if you didn't see the show. 2 seconds in the future, takes place in the tech industry in the Bay Area, Silicon Valley, and Nick Offerman playing the unlikely casting there too. There's a lot of casting as type, I think, there in the show because Nick Offerman is kind of the head of the tech company who has this very special project he's been working on. To me, Devs was sort of a triumph of atmosphere. It's really stuck with me. And I will say, going into Devs, I didn't think if you're going into Devs personally, I didn't think they nailed the ending. But I guess that really speaks to the fact that I think Matt and I have both discussed how we're not as ending oriented as some people. But also
no,
Devs,
I mean the show still was on my top 20 of the year. I loved it.
Yeah, I loved it. So even though the ending I didn't think they had a home run with where they kind of came in the very end. Just everything about the show and its mood and its feel, the vibe of it really, really enticed me and has made me want to kind of go back and revisit it, which I haven't had time to do yet. But has made me want to revisit it and see sort of the way that it works. And I think Alex Garland is just a real, very distinct vibe to his stuff. If you've seen Ex Machina and Annihilation, he's got this. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. It's very atmospheric.
Well, I'll say this. A huge moment that stood out to me from that show was a slow motion fight scene set to a song called Congregation by a band
which I listened to a million times.
Me too. It's on my liked songs on Spotify, and I always listen to it. Because I heard it immediately, and I was like, I need to know what this song is.
Yeah. So, and there's a YouTube video that's just a fan-made montage of scenes from Devs basically cutting together some montages that were already in the shows set to that song that I've watched many times.
Oh, send that to me because I want to see it.
I will.
That show also stars Callie Spaney, who was one of my Phantom fan casting choices for Ellie in The Last of Us TV series.
Yeah.
Callie Spaney being somebody who is like 22 or 23 who could look 15 or whatever. Like, she's not a teenager, but like Tom Holland, she could play one. And what else? Oh, that brings very quickly, Eric. Very quickly. Callie Spaney was also in Pacific Rim Uprising, and I was doing some research of the Pacific Rim movies before the Pacific Rim anime drops on Netflix tomorrow. And I was just reading plot synopsis just to refresh my memories of the movies. I haven't seen them in a while. I saw Pacific Rim Uprising in the theater, so a couple years ago. And in the cast listing, Eric, we're down where it's like the cast of Pacific Rim Uprising, and they're John Boyega and all the people down in the movie. Mixed in, Eric, and I sent this to Stephen S. tonight, and he responded to me today. Mixed in are characters from Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
What?
But their summaries and bios are woven into the Pacific Rim story.
What?
Isn't that weird? Because I'm like going down the cast, I'm like, wait, Shirley Manson wasn't in this, and I'm like, what? And, and they had other characters too, and it's like sent back in time to protect Raleigh's daughter. And I'm like, what? Raleigh was the character that Charlie Hunnam played in the first movie. And I'm like, this is so weird. Who did this? Anyway, sorry. I didn't mean to
Where was this you were reading this?
The Wikipedia page. Sorry. The Wikipedia page for Pacific Rim Uprising.
Okay, so it wasn't official. It wasn't like, I was like.
No. Sorry if that wasn't clear. I was reading the plot summaries on the Wikipedia pages. And I looked at the cast and I noticed that somebody, for no reason or whatever reason, mixed in Terminator, the Sarah Connor Chronicles characters in this.
Very odd. Anyway, Devs is great. I love it. It was one of my favorite things last year. And if you haven't seen it, I hope that it's a thing you enjoy. It's a mini series and 8 episodes, and you can watch it on Hulu.
All right, Eric. So you made my choice for me in the sense that my most recent choice was written by Alex Garland, and you just mentioned it, which was Dread. But now I'll go to the 90s one. Okay. Everyone see Dread. We already just recommended it to you. Yes. If you haven't seen it, see it. Great. It's an excellent, awesome...
Not the Stallone one.
No, just Dread.
Just Dread.
From what?
Just Dread.
2017? Is that the year? I think.
No, it was earlier than that. I think it was 2014.
Oh, no, 2012, I think.
Okay.
I think it was way early, yeah. All right, so my movie is The Edge, starring Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin. And I don't know where you land on that movie, Eric. I
remember liking it.
I always really like it. I admit it's flawed, and I don't know. I think it holds up personally, but it's Anthony Hopkins and Alec Baldwin and Harold Perrineau, who you would know from Lost and other things, and then Elle Macpherson. But really, that's it. It doesn't have a huge cast because it's literally about guys getting stuck in the Alaskan wilderness, and it's written by David Mamet. And it's directed by
Mamet wrote it.
Yeah, Mamet wrote it, and I think that's why it stands out to me, because you've got this sort of weird survival wilderness movie mixed with Mamet dialogue, and it's Alec Baldwin and Anthony Hopkins saying it, and they're both great. Again, I'm just saying that the movie I don't think holds up on every level, but I always really enjoyed it. It was on like 2 nights ago, so I just left it on and fell asleep to it because I could just watch it. And I think there's some really cool moments in it. Anthony Hopkins plays a billionaire. Elle Macpherson is his wife. They travel to this remote area of Alaska so that his wife, who is a supermodel, which Elle Macpherson actually is, can do a photo shoot in the Alaskan wilderness. And the fashion photographer, is played by Alec Baldwin. And Anthony Hopkins sort of sees them flirting and, wonders about if like they're having an affair or if the photographer likes his wife or something. But before we can even get into that story, a plane crash maroons them in the middle of the woods, way far away from where they're supposed to be, and no one's going to be looking for them. So it's a survival story, and I think it works really well. I like it a lot. So that's my pick. And I don't know anything else more to say about it. Sometimes I feel like less is more. Like, if
No, it's
they
fine,
really
yeah.
don't need to... Because by the time you and I saw The Edge, we'd seen the trailer 100 times.
Yes.
So I
which
do
gave
wonder.
away-
So I do wonder if people are going back and watching something like The Talented Mr. Ripley or some of the other movies we recommended, if how blind they are going into it, and I think that's an interesting experience. Sure. Go into The Edge as blind as you can and tell me what you think if you choose to do so. Now, The Edge I don't think is actually streaming anywhere. You will have to
It's
rent
not,
it.
but you can rent it or buy it on all the usual places.
Yeah, it's like $3.99 somewhere. So if you want to have a movie night and watch The Edge with some two great actors and a mostly great script and a score that's really cool from Jerry Goldsmith, but you will also get sick of because it is repeated a lot. But that's my pick. All right. So let's get into next week's main event is what?
Next week's main event is a double feature of the pilots to the two. There were two different live action.
I feel like we're going to lose a lot of people with this one, Eric.
We're going to probably. Well, I think again. I hopefully they'll just listen to us, even if they decide not to give 3 hours of their life to watching these two pilots.
Because it's not like, oh, this is a cool movie. Okay.
So there are two different RoboCop TV show pilots. I've never seen a lick of either of these shows. I feel like the 94 one I might have seen like commercials for. But yes, so RoboCop 1994 is not, here's the thing. I will always try to get people to legally watch things, but once in a while, if there's just no way to purchase, rent, I'll say it's on YouTube. So RoboCop 1994, the pilot, you'll find it on YouTube. If you go to YouTube and you search RoboCop 1994, episode 1, it'll come up. It's episode 1 and 2 together because it's one of those things where like it was a 2-hour aired as a 2-hour pilot, but then they would split it up later. But AKA The Future of Law Enforcement, and that was the full title of the pilot. So you'll find it. It's there. RoboCop 1994, episode 1. The other one is much easier because it's actually on Prime. It's streaming on Prime, and you can rent it all the usual places too. The second RoboCop show, which I think was 2001, was called RoboCop Prime Directives. Very odd in that it was 4 TV movies. I think it was almost like a pilot, 4 pilots, and they were hoping it would continue as an ongoing series. So the very awkward title I want you all to search for on Prime or anywhere else if you want to rent it is RoboCop Prime Directives Dark Justice.
That's almost a Zack Snyder Superman title.
Because RoboCop Prime Directives was the name of the show, but then the 4 movies all have a subtitle on top of that.
Right. Is it Prime? Is that why it's on Prime? Because it's called Prime Directives, Eric?
Yes.
Is that why it's on Prime?
That's
Okay.
exactly why. But Dark Justice is the one that you want to watch. That was the first one. So those are the two things, and we'll see how that goes.
All right, here we go with RoboCop. Full spoilers for RoboCop 2014, the remake that very quickly we can get into maybe behind the scenes stuff, which is that it was probably like a good 10 or so years in development. They originally announced it in the mid-aughts, and like at some point Aronofsky was going to direct it, and then it became it's also almost reminiscent of what Jeff wrote in about, which is like studio execs wanting certain things from the movie, that which is that it was supposed to come out in 2010, but then Avatar made 3D really popular, so then they scrapped everything because they wanted to film it in 3D, and MGM couldn't afford it at that point. And then the suit was very influenced by The Dark Knight, and it just felt like it was being stabbed by 1,000 spears from outside that was preventing it from maybe being a better film than it was. But as a movie, Eric, I think I liked it more this time than the first time I saw it. I'm not saying it's a great movie. I just think it still kind of sits there, still kind of but I did, maybe because I just watched the other RoboCop movies and as a franchise and just more steeped in the history of the entire IP, I liked it more, but also I just came out of 2 really bad RoboCop movies, so maybe that was painting, skewing my opinion a little bit too.
I don't know. I think we went into this with the same, that we remember not hating it, but we didn't remember much else. It was really the second half of this movie where I just kind of checked out in a way I didn't even do for 2 or 3. It's just I don't know. It just doesn't resonate for me. First, it's very funny, Matt, because I don't know if you saw me tweet this, but it's like RoboCop 3 has this amazing cast that I just literally never knew was in it. RoboCop 2014 has an amazing cast that I forgot were in it.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't remember Gary Oldman.
Michael Keaton a couple weeks ago, and I had forgotten he was in it until you said that. And then the movie begins, and I see Samuel L. Jackson. I go, huh? And then Gary Oldman shows up. I go, huh, Jackie Earle Haley? I didn't remember any of these people were in this movie. This is an amazing cast. But again,
and Michael K. Williams and like all these people. That is a good point. Like, it is actually people who are known right now, like not future stars, but stars of the now.
Or 2014, stars of 2014.
In a movie that, wasn't worth them. It was just, they wanted to kick this off in a big way, and a lot of great character actors, some nominated for Oscars at certain points, and it's just kind of, I think this movie shoots itself in the foot by trying to evoke some of the satire, and I think the other RoboCop sequels did this too, where you can't recapture that satire of the first movie, and also do a deeper exploration of the drama of the human psyche being turned into a machine. Mm-hmm. Like it can only sort of be one sort of. If you're going to go for that satire, you have to give it a comic book story.
Yeah, and I know, and it's funny because I was just thinking the same thing. A lot of people. I don't think I said this. I think I meant to say it on the first episode. We did not first episode of this podcast, first RoboCop. And if I did say this, sorry, I'm repeating myself. But a lot of people have said RoboCop, especially back then, was one of the greatest comic book movies ever made, even though it wasn't based on a comic book. Kind of like how people have said, like, there's not many great video game movies. Edge of Tomorrow is a great video game movie. It's just not based on a video game. So in 1987, when we had very little in the way of good comic book movies, it's like, oh, well, RoboCop feels like a great comic book movie. There's no comic. And that's not to say, of course, as someone who loves comic books, you can have deep, introspective, character-heavy comic books. But yeah, that first movie operates at a heightened tone that works just right, where it's not like we are supposed to care about Murphy and care what happens to him and care that he's getting his humanity back. But it's all heightened a little, and it's not trying to be like deep, like, it's not trying to like get real. It's trying to be like real on its own terms, which is this heightened, very satirical mode that everything's operating on, and it does that great. And we care about Murphy. We're into the story, but we're having a great time with it. It's the violence is over the top. The advertising, everything that's going on in the city is meant to be like at this heightened tone. And very hard to replicate that. And then, I think you're right that it's like here, well, they really want to get it. Like they were like, oh, this is going to be more grounded, more real. Yet they always feel they have to put in the satire too, because I think everyone understands it's part of RoboCop, but
it doesn't work because so you open with Samuel L. Jackson doing what's basically the satire part of it, and saying like, doing some sort of like heated news pundit TV show where he's really loud and bombastic, and it's reminiscent of the maybe the opening news segments of the earlier movies. Mm-hmm. But then it goes into like
through like a Fox News like built around one person.
Yeah, and then it goes to Tehran and like a place that's where the citizenry are being intimidated by these giant robots, and after a conflict, a child is killed, and then the satire ends because like there's a huge difference between like a yuppie dweeb getting blown to bits in a sort of a heightened comical way in the first movie in a boardroom. Mm-hmm. And people being non-reactive to that, than a child getting killed by
having the old man go, "Dick, I'm very disappointed."
Exactly.
It's like a punchline,
You can't go from a child being killed by a robot in Tehran to Samuel L. Jackson going like, "Is America robophobic?" Like it doesn't work. Like it's just too much of a split. So, but yeah, the elements of, and then so what you're talking about with Murphy, I don't know if we have to go through this beat by beat. I say that every week, but. So Joel Kinnaman, who I've liked in things, mm-hmm. I liked his plight as the robot. But before we meet him and before he's blown up in a car bomb outside of his home, he is very, like, I don't say unlikable, but I don't like him. He's grumpy, he's serious, he's like, there's nothing to like about him except that he wants to get this bad guy.
Right.
There's nothing, like, we meet him and he's already pissed off. And he's already a cop on the edge, whereas Peter Weller's character was like this do-gooder idealist from a different precinct who comes in spinning his gun. And like that said more to me about the Peter Weller and Murphy and his son's relationship in their first movie than all the actual scenes together that Murphy and his son have in this movie.
Yeah, yeah. It's such a tricky balance, right? Because you and I know we said this a few weeks ago. Like, we certainly don't think like making a bad remake ruins the original. It can't. And in a case of RoboCop, like no one even thinks about this remake anymore because it just came and went. But the original stands as a classic forever. But I also think when they do these remakes, I'm always like, well, yeah, have fun with it, mix it up, because if you're just doing a carbon copy, then what's the point? So the idea of, hey, in this one, Murphy's wife will know from the beginning that he's alive, and she'll be actually
they don't fake his death, and she's brought into the process.
I like in theory that they're switching up like that, but you better make that also like an interesting story. And here it just kind of dull to me.
I also liked, because like I said, I like the movie more than you, or at least that's what the conclusion we've come to. But I like the idea that they actually OmniCorp, which we find out at the end is a division of OCP. So they bring up OCP at the end. They need to develop a cyborg because it's the only way America will essentially accept this type of law enforcement. So whatever morality elements that need to be and fears that need to be assuaged for the American public, whether they're real or not, involves that a human being who knows the value of life and knows what it is to live and die needs to be the one who kills, and not something that can't value human life because they're not human. So the idea that that's why they do this, and that they're basically also trying to make a Captain America. They're looking for candidates for this version of whatever a super soldier serum is, which is this robot part enhancement. And so that's why, like, they can't lie to Murphy's wife. They have to bring her into it because Murphy is chosen to be this person, and he is being pushed out front and center. Like, this is your hero. So it is way more the element of the robot, whereas like in the first RoboCop, Old Detroit is just presented with RoboCop. This is, you are presented with Murphy. Like, this is Alex Murphy. I don't think they're really trying to bill him as like a nondescript RoboCop.
It's a strange, convoluted plot because the whole thing is that because dude from Devs, because of this like legal mandate against like robots and drones on U.S. soil. You
mean the robophobia, Eric?
The robophobia. I forgot that line, which is in the trailers. But I was like, oh my god, I forgot the line. It's like they want to sneak in a robot like by under the guise of him being a cyborg. It's like, well, we just push it as like a human who's enhanced, but really we just want to get our robotics out there, and that's how we'll sell them on this. Yeah,
and so as the movie goes on, they slowly strip away more and more of Murphy's humanity. See, I like that part, and I like the idea. There's a line where Jackie Earle Haley's character, someone says to him, or he says it to someone else, where it's like, at this point, he is like when he's fighting in violent fighting mode, he is now a robot pretending who thinks he's Alex Murphy.
Yeah, I think that was Gary Oldman, although I had a very hard time figuring out if we were supposed to be sympathetic to Gary Oldman or not, because sometimes it seems like he's sympathetic to Murphy, and other times he's just saying very matter-of-factly, like, oh, he has no control. Like, control, so.
Well, I guess that what we land on at the end, because he does save him, is that he was more sympathetic than not. I do appreciate Amy Garcia being in there as the sort of an echo of the female lab tech who has, a soft spot for her project, which we saw most recently manifested fully in Dr. Lazarus, who was, very much seemed like she was supposed to go forward as Murphy's new second. If that franchise continued, right, and eventual love interest, because she was now merged in that weird moment with his wife and Lewis.
Yes. I forgot that Michael K. Williams plays Lewis.
Oh man, a different type of gender flip, right? So we've got a male Lewis. What's next? Leonard Croft Tomb Raider, Eric? I think I laughed.
Cancel culture. Man.
Oh god, cancel culture. I think I laughed when we don't even meet Lewis. Like, when we meet Lewis, he's already been shot.
Yeah, no, it's weird. It's like they tell you in the past tense, and then we get flashbacks to it.
Like, why do that's such a weird thing to do in a movie that doesn't need it? Why a flashback? There's no other flashback. So, but I like that it keeps up the tradition of Lewis getting shot, because Lewis gets shot again at the end, and I laughed when that happened too. Because he keeps getting shot.
Whatever universe you're in, Lewis will get shot,
and then just be like, "I'm okay." So. I think the movie looks cool. I think the action works. I think, again, it's not the original RoboCop. It's not Paul Verhoeven. It's not going to have that type of satirical hyperviolence, but I think it clicks. It doesn't wait too long to blow him up. It is interesting that he is sort of, and the other interesting thing, as we're talking about them trying to ground it, is when he's being shown himself in the mirror and he's basically like, kill me, where it's not only do they bring his wife into this, they bring him into it in a way that they never brought in the original Murphy. So they're like literally showing him. And then he's got his running scene just like Spider-Man or The Crow or like...
Which also, of course, he can run. The original RoboCop could not. Both in real life, that suit would not allow it, and the character was not a runner, but this one can.
He was a lover, not a runner.
Yes. What a weird choice to give him the one human hand when they're going to reveal that literally it's a floating human hand. I would be okay with it if it were like, because in the original RoboCop, there's that pointed line where they're like, "Oh, we could save this and this," and like, no, get rid. Like, basically, we are making the conscious decision to replace all of his body with robotics, even if we don't have to. And this one, they make, it's a freaky reveal of like when they pull away all his body parts. But it's so strange to have the one human floating hand.
It's what his favorite hand, Eric.
Yeah. Like, what's the justification to keep that hand with it's like a long metal pipe, basically.
That's the hand he uses to high five Lois after they do a drug bust.
Okay. I guess he does need that.
It would be cool if that was the hand he used to like do his flip his gunfighter style because his kid liked a certain TJ Laser TV show. But they didn't include that, so it wasn't even a gun flip moment. There were callbacks in this movie. Jackie Earle Haley does get the line, I wouldn't buy that for $1, I think he says.
I think he said that I wouldn't buy that for $1, yeah.
Womp womp. And then, as Jeff pointed out earlier, when they were testing out the colors, and Michael Keaton's like, I want it black or something, like they test out the silver color. Which, yes, it does look better, and they resort to it at the end. They go back to the silver. But they also seem to be making a little winking mock to RoboCop appealing to kids, which, where he, like, his sirens pop out and the kids love him, where Jay Baruchel, is that how you say his name? Is, like, going through the different looks of RoboCop, and Michael Keaton's like, nah, that's crap, or something like that. It was really very much shitting on the RoboCop franchise, trying to appeal to families and to kids and stuff like that. Where it's like, this isn't your grandfather's RoboCop, because all of our grandfathers had cyborgs. Sorry,
right. Another dialogue callback is he kills someone and then says, "Thank you for your cooperation." He says it and then he shoots him.
Well, we also get a Dead or Alive, You're Coming With Me moment, right?
That's right. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So there's some hallmarks, some little.
But it's also just the other thing that really where I was like, oh, this movie is so dull compared to the first one is the bad guys, like the gang.
Oh man, like I understand not being able to top Clarence Boddicker, believe me, but
and again, I don't need to even have Clarence Boddicker come up with your own new villains, but make them something.
But they did. They did come up with their own new villains, and they were bad, and they were
That's
boring.
What I'm saying. Make them something. They were there, but they were nothing. They just existed.
Instead of something, there was nothing.
Right. I get, obviously, ultimately, Keaton is the main villain, and who, it's like, it's Michael Keaton, so he brings I'm Michael Keaton to this table. But yeah, they when you think, because as we talked about with the first RoboCop, it's like, you've got Bob, who is not a villain, but is such a smarmy presence. And then you've got Dick, and then you've got Clarence. It's like there was like levels of villains in the first one, and they're all great. Like all the bad guys, all the OCP guys, every level of corruption they're all great. And here, as much as this is in a tremendous cast, and you have Michael Keaton and Jackie Earle Haley ultimately playing bad guys, yeah, the characters are just, I don't know. They're just kind of there. It's also strange they do the thing, their replacement for Directive 4 is the red asset thing. It serves the same purpose.
With the bracelet, yeah. And so I am a little torn. I think I land on the side of I like it, which is that there are two huge moments in the movie where just the fact that Murphy is human and has memories and emotions tucked away somewhere in his mind, despite the fact that he's been rewired, it's enough to overcome directives. And maybe they set up the precedent earlier on after he kind of ignores his wife, but then checks on his kid and finds his kid is stressed and stuff like that. And that's when he actually, for the first time, sort of goes against his directives and then starts to solve his own murder and stuff like that and goes against his orders.
Right.
And all it took was just him being human and like the humanity inside him being enough to override stuff. And that's what the gimmick was at the end too. He literally just struggles to shoot Michael Keaton despite the red bracelet. And
right.
I feel like I need a little more, Chekhov's trick going on there.
Yeah, because then he just shoots him.
Aside from his big trick play that he pulls out of the AC pulls out of his sleeve is the fact that if he just wills himself and tries really hard, he can overcome the programming. But they did establish it that he's able to do that. So either way, it's just not as impressive as the "you're fired" moment, which is a great moment from the first movie. Or even the callback to like the data knife in Clarence Boddicer's neck.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I will say that
Sayonara, RoboCop.
During his first initial street cleanup moments, when he's like cleaning up Detroit and cracking down on crime, one of the people he busts on his way to, I think Valen, is that the name of the villain? Is the actor who plays Rold from Letterkenny. So any Letterkenny fans out there will notice the guy in this movie who goes Stuart all the time. And
it's funny.
I laughed because I thought it was a fun Easter egg for me.
It was for you, Matt. It's interesting because you mentioned how maybe they were doing a little self-mocking of the RoboCop franchise with like aiming it at kids. But the funny thing to remember about this movie is it was PG-13, which was the one time it's kind of very obvious is actually at the very end because Samuel L. Jackson gets his, saying fuck in, but they bleep it.
Oh, no, but he gets to say his motherfucker because it's Samuel L.
Yeah.
Jackson, so he gets to say the Samuel L. Jackson line.
Yeah, but they bleep it because it's in-universe bleeping because it's like on the show he's on. But it does show you, I think, how the PG-13 evolved over 20 years, because a lot of people, this complaint comes up a lot now. It's like that PG-13 movies can be very, very violent, but if they just avoid like blood in a certain way, and I think when RoboCop 3 came out, they hadn't refined that yet, So even though it was less like you said squibs and blood, but it also just felt like less like violence was happening on screen. But these days they can get away with a lot more violence on screen in a PG-13. They just sort of pitch it a little differently than they would if it were an R-rated movie.
Yeah, and then I will say that the movie's still mostly forgettable. It's not anything that I needed to see continue on. And the third act feels rushed. Like the whole thing where they're going to pull the plug on him, but then everyone retreats to the building and he's got to get to the tower and everything, that all feels very rushed at the end. The action I think is pretty good where he's fighting the multiple Ed 209s. I think a lot of that works, but it does feel like a race to the finish. And then it all ends really strangely. Like, I feel like it's strange to end on Samuel L. Jackson, and it's strange to end on a Clash song, especially since we didn't even bring this up yet, I don't think. The theme is back.
The theme is back, but used kind of
sparingly, or just
sparingly.
So they didn't go full tilt with the theme. Instead,
they played like when it like very beginning, like you think it will be throughout the movie, and then it's just kind of here, there, and a couple times. They play it like as Murphy like enters the police station, so in kind of a big way at the top. But then it's just I think it's like one other time in the movie, and then it's at the end of the closing credits. So it's just strange with that. They do, and also talking about like the fact that the main RoboCop look in here is the all black one, but then like. Because first it's not the same design, but the color scheme is like the first one. But then we also see the combat mode, and that looks almost exactly like the first one. It's like we see a visual of a suit of armor. Yeah. And then it seems like that's what he's wearing at the end, although he never puts the helmet back on.
Did it bug you that he didn't put the visor down? It bugged me.
It did. Also, by the way, I know it's not like a copyrighted thing or something, but when you see, especially in the early parts with the silver robots, because the Tehran opening where we have the Ed 209s, but then we have the EM 208s, which are like the human-sized robots. Silver robots with a red light is going to evoke Cylons, and I mean maybe that was a purposeful homage.
Again, I think that there's a lot of elements of this movie that were just cherry picked from other better projects that were happening at the time, that sort of like, you have to have this and these have to have this look, and that prevented this movie from maybe feeling a little more, like its own vibrant thing than it is. It just doesn't.
It's weird. Like there was a really weird moment when he's like looking at we see his point of view a lot, and how he reads people and what they are and if they're a threat or not. And did you notice that part where it says non-threat, totally stoned? And that felt like that was obviously a decision made in post, and it was just such a weird, wacky thing that didn't fit tonally everything else going on with RoboCop. But they decided to throw that in there. So.
At that point, they should have just had him say it.
Oh, and then
he's totally stoned.
Totally stoned. Although I did also laugh, and I kind of a cringy laugh, but still a laugh at a good cop, bad cop. Nah, bad cop, RoboCop.
This movie's really about grief.
And the illusion of free will. And then also they did that thing. It bugged me because I guess the action's okay overall. And they give him a robocycle. It did, again, of course you're going to compare it to the first one, especially when it's just not offering things that replace it in a cool way. Because there's that part that definitely it reminded me of the first one, because it's a big warehouse shootout, except it's a warehouse shootout with him versus Jackie Earle Haley and all those other robots. And I'm just like, all I'm thinking about is the warehouse scene in the first one, where it's like just awesome, Yeah,
and then also that's almost echoed during his invasion of Valen's hideout, except it's all done in the dark, and then he kills Valen at the end. So it's like, that was almost the same thing too, where busting in to catch. But he was just going. He wasn't like RoboCop in the first movie. His directives make him arrest Clarence, even though his rage is taking over for a while, and he's throwing him through windows. In this movie, he just kills him. Is it because the guy's armed, or was he going there to kill him? I don't know if that was clear or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I did like him solving crimes with his computer brain. I thought that was an interesting element too, like tracking things, getting the evidence, and like finding the people, meeting with him in the reflection of a security camera in the car window and stuff like that. Like that cool. Piecing things together, because he essentially does solve his own murder, but that's when he gets shut down, because if you think about what the only real bad thing, and I think I wrote some notes about this, it's like the villains aren't uber villains in this movie, aside from the corrupt cops and Valen. But like, if we're talking about Michael Keaton's character, he wants to shut down RoboCop, and he's being a dick. He's lying to the wife, saying he died. He's basically got to kill Murphy and whatever. We can have like weird moral arguments about what his rights are to be able to do that anyway. But when Murphy goes to get him at the end, he's wants to arrest him for trying to kill a cop, which is him. That's the only time when Michael Keaton kind of does anything bad, I think, in the movie, is when he decides that, oh wait, RoboCop can actually go after corruption, because when he targets the police captain and finds out that she was in on everything, all we hear is that it makes a lot of the politicians nervous, and so that's when Michael Keaton's character Sellers decides to shut down RoboCop and kill him off, because he's only supposed to do street crime. And he, tapped into police corruption, and that was sort of a no-no, and that's when they pulled the plug on him. But that's kind of as far as the villainy goes. Like, this movie doesn't have Sellers teaming up with Valen the way that Dick and Clarence had a working relationship in the first movie. Right. Like, they weren't like monstrous villains. They were greedy, immoral capitalists, but that's it. So I thought that was interesting too. Like, he wasn't like the worst.
Mm-hmm. By the way, it's just a strange thing. I know that the credits for writers on these movies are so strange with arbitration and WGA. It just really struck me that Ed Neumeier and Michael Miner, who wrote the original, are credited as writers on this movie, and they never came back. That has happened before, where remakes, where they consider it so close to the original, they give the original writers credit. I'm just surprised this case. I would feel like enough is different when you compare it to other remakes, But no, they were given, along with the guy who did write this movie, they were given full writer credits. But
they were the ones who wrote Totally Stoned. And because of that, there was no way they could not give them credit for this entire movie.
One little pass on it. I last week I mentioned how this movie was made as MGM, who sort of notoriously has like kind of barely held on for 20 years or so now, with basically just the Bond films and occasional like Rocky or Creed movies to kind of keep them alive, has really looked into their vaults for anything they own to remake. They own RoboCop because they got all of Orion's assets at one point. And I misspoke. Total Recall was not an MGM remake, but same era. But yeah, it's like Carrie, Poltergeist, RoboCop, Valley Girl last year, all MGM just kind of looking into their vaults and being like, what can we remake? Because Bill and Ted, like Ed Solomon talked about how for years they had to fight MGM, who wanted to do a remake versus a sequel. So Bill and Ted managed to skip the remake thing and get an actual sequel out of it. But yeah, MGM and all those movies, again, every one of them, it's like they came, they went, and people still think about the original as like the iconic movie. And it exists. These ones exist.
This one does, in fact, exist. I tested it out on my own eyeballs, and I have survived. That was, again, good cast. Right?
Very good cast.
Very good cast. It's nothing I need to see move forward. Jennifer L. was also in this movie as another sort of evil corporate person behind Michael Keaton. And
Abby Cornish, what's her face, who played the corrupt police chief, Baptiste. What is her name?
Maureen Jean Baptiste. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we just literally named like 3 English. There are a lot of English people in this movie. And then we've got Jay Baruchel, who's Canadian, and then Michael Keaton and Samuel L. Jackson. I'm just going to name everyone's nationality. Joel Kinnaman, too, Swedish.
That's right. It's funny you mentioned Aronofsky was, attached to this at one point, only because Aronofsky was also attached to do Batman Year One at one point, which, never happened. But we got Batman Begins instead when they were looking at like some form of Batman origin movie. It's funny that Aronofsky has flirted with actually doing like a major franchise movie. He never has, and I wonder, will he one day? Since like twice now he's toyed with or been attached to do like a pretty big mainstream. In both cases, I know RoboCop, not based on comic, but still 2 superhero movies. So one day will we get Aronofsky's take on I don't know, Namor.
He's gonna do Blade.
There you go. Make it happen.
All right, that was RoboCop 2014. Sort of a quick rundown. We've gone through enough RoboCop movies now where I think
now we're going to go to TV.
Oh my God, Eric, we're gonna lose them. We're gonna lose them with this TV stuff. All right.
It's the cartoons I'm actually more fascinated by, but I'm curious about these pilots.
I will watch them. I am not curious. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us for RoboCop 2014 and this edition of We Enjoy. And everything is possible, but nothing is real. And Shakma.
Shakma.